Video here for Grandad is an old man, and apologies first of all, this camera doesn't really go much nearer before going out of focus. But the idea is to try at long last a propeller coming out through the back. So I've drilled a hole in the back of this, and luckily it seems to go in line with this rudder piece, which I may take off anyway depending on how things go. I'll put a piece of heat shrink tube through, and heat shrink tube is the key words really for this project. That goes through there. Here's a 3D printed propeller. It's the last thing that my printer did do correctly before things went a bit pear-shaped with it. But anyway, that printed out okay. And I've got more heat shrink tube going into that, glued, a piece of carbon fibre rod, and another piece of the heat shrink to go on to a motor, which is a 7mm coreless. I'm not sure if it's 6 or 7. Anyway, what I'm going to do is put another piece of heat shrink tube to connect the two together properly. This does have a hole through it, a little bit loose on the shaft, but I'm hoping that this piece will clamp down even further. That's the motor on. What I'm going to use for electronics is some old, about 5 years old now, plain stuff, and this is a Spektrum compatible receiver with 2 servos and an ESC out to a brush motor. So I use that ESC to power the little coreless there. I don't know if I could actually use one of these servos, run the motor off that and take the gears out, etc. I don't know. But the other one is going to be used for the rudder control. A bit of an update for the rudder. I will have both over-engineered and un-engineered this, I'm absolutely sure. But what I've done is I've taken the old piece that was underneath that I used to use as some kind of a rudder keel, and got some wire, bent it around, made a loop, attached that at both sides, then attached that itself, another piece of wire, with some, well, an aircraft kind of a trick. A little model aircraft trick where I use cotton and some glue and wrap it around. That'll form a good secure bond there. And the thing is with that though, I used some water-based glue. Well, that's going to come off, isn't it, very fast, so I'm going to use some of this as well, the 6000 over the top of it. Then the piece that comes out from the top there into the boat will be connecting to another piece that goes onto the servo. So that's where we're at. Okay, here's the eventual end result of all this. That back end is going to need some fettling, I'm sure, at some point, but that's why I've also added a small bend amount here onto the servo to adjust things. I've also glued the servo circuit on top of the other servo. Anyway, we'll see what happens with it. Well, there's a lesson learned, to not use anything other than the motor that comes with the servo. I managed to blow up the other circuit. It's a nice smell and whiff of smoke when I tried to power up and test. So I've ended up taking apart one of this type, which is a very tiny thing, left its motor connected, redone everything, and it seems to run fine. But and also interestingly though, that motor does seem to spin the prop pretty well. Oh, anyway, so like I say, lesson learned. Don't be putting bigger motors or different motors on to a servo. So what does happen in water? Here we go. Oh, it's going backwards. Oh man, I see. Hang on, so if I go for reverse, that's forwards. I'll have to reverse the servo. After thinking about this, I think I might just swap the direction of the motor. That would do it, wouldn't it? Also, I'm not seeing any water. This is great news. That's the motor connection swapped over, and again I hope it's in focus. To the right, reverse, to the left. Right, it's on the water. Gonna learn a lot here. Right. I'm gonna better turn it around. Quite some wind as well. There's a little bit of speed. There's reverse. Just about. There it goes. Well, it's going to win no speed awards, but it is working. Once the wind lets up, it's okay. It's still very slow, but it's okay. There's the cat watching. So there we go. So back on dry land. As a summary, I thought it did okay really. I mean, look at the size of that motor. Just for reference, there's my little finger. That is absolutely tiny. So at least there's that bit of learning going on. There's no water seems to have come through. The water only ever gets to the top of that little piece there that goes through the boat. So that was good to learn about as well. Steering went okay, and I got it back without sinking it, so there you go. Okay, thanks for watching.